Well, Chris, thanks so much to you and all your colleagues from the Western Sydney Leadership Dialogue for your policy leadership and your advocacy for this region. A year ago when I was here, I laid out my top 10 priorities for Western Sydney, and of course Brownie an hour ago, in his usual shy and understated way, gave us his top 74 priorities for Western Sydney. I can't compete with that, but what I thought I'd start with is just to rattle off in 1 minute those top 10 priorities, but then this year I want to hone in on one specific area of policy and talk about that. So my top 10 priorities: growing local jobs. Of course, we have to create 500,000 new jobs here in Greater Western Sydney by 2040. Secondly, make Western Sydney Airport a success. Let's raise our ambition here. It can't just be a spillover airport. It has to be the single greatest driver of jobs growth in Western Sydney. Let's give it a rail connection from day one. Thirdly, a relentless focus on southwest Sydney. Why? It's going from 800,000 to 1.3 million residents over 20 years. Governments must relentlessly focus on southwest Sydney. Fourth, revitalise the Olympic Peninsula, from Parramatta through Camellia, that industrial land, back along the Parramatta River all the way east to Rhodes. We have to fix the transport and we have to build communities, not just apartments. Fifth, let's give real authority to the Greater Sydney Commission to get the job done. Give them the power they need. 6, better planning for schools. 7, investment in language education. 8, town centre renewal. Let's apply the successful Parramatta model to the river cities of Penrith and Liverpool and to Campbelltown. 9, arts and culture. You were kind, Chris. Yes, I remember those happy days when the state had a premier who came here and said passionately he was for the entire relocation of the Powerhouse Museum to Western Sydney. Weren't those the days? I'm holding the line on this, and I'd encourage the government to return to the Baird commitment. 10th, rethinking social and affordable housing. Western Sydney is alive with success, opportunity and growth, but we can't forget the poor. We can't ignore the pockets of disadvantage. We need new solutions to those multi-generational problems in our public housing estates. And one of the reasons I'm attracted to the Western Sydney Commonwealth Games bid that's been raised this morning is that's a great opportunity, I think, to rebuild entirely one of the big public housing estates in Western Sydney. So there's my top 10 priorities, but today I thought I'd focus on simply one area of policy: education. Because consider the demography. Western Sydney, compared to Australia as a whole, skews young and multicultural. And when you hear all this talk of Western Sydney's potential, it all stems from this: its fast-growing, youthful, multicultural population. So investing in education just makes sense. We have to build new schools and upgrade existing ones. Let me spell out the size of the challenge. We have to deliver 170,000 additional school places through Greater Western Sydney in less than 15 years. At the moment, we are well and truly off the pace. And at the trajectory we're currently going, increased class sizes are the inevitable result. So why is it that we as a state right now can find $17 billion for a single road project, but not find the money we need to deliver the schools we need? Are we content to accept a situation where it'll take 45 years to deliver those school places we need within the next 15 years? Are we content to accept that? I'm not. I'm committing a future Labor government, a 2019 New South Wales Labor government, to an unprecedented schools building program. And that's vital for this region. I'll ensure that the Greater Sydney Commission is given the power to take unused and underused government land from other departments and agencies to build new schools and expand existing ones. We need an immediate audit of all government land to identify priority sites for new schools and school expansions. I could tell you so many stories of missed opportunities throughout Sydney. The Lidcombe Motor Registry, immediately adjacent to a primary school bursting at the seams. The motor registry sold off for apartments. Right now there's a great opportunity in Wiley Park, for the Wiley Park Girls High, the Wiley Park Public, the Lakemba Public, a park owned by Sydney Water that they want to sell off. 3 schools. We can meet their expansion needs. Let's get smart about this and let's say this is a whole of government priority. Other government agencies will be forced to contribute to the effort of delivering the school places, particularly that are needed, particularly in the fastest growing part of the state, Greater Western Sydney. And here's a thought. In 2019, the University of Sydney Faculty of Health Sciences will pull back from Lidcombe, the old Cumberland College of Health Sciences, to Camperdown. That site's owned by the state government. It's a perfect site. It's already an educational campus for a new co-educational high school, whether it's delivered by the state itself or by the non-government sector. Let's not sell that off. Let's commit to the ongoing use of the Cumberland campus of the University of Sydney. Once the university pulls out, the ongoing use of the site for a large new school in the geographic centre of Sydney. And I could tell you so many stories about how far off the pace we are. 3 kilometres from here, just cross the river, turn left, go straight past the Silverwater prison, and you get to Wentworth Point. It's one of the fastest growing suburbs in Australia. I think the boys from Bilbergia are here today. Who've done a terrific job there, including delivering a bridge that connects that community with the rest of Sydney. But it has no school. We're talking about high-rise, high-density living on the Parramatta River and Homebush Bay. No school. For 5 state budgets in a row, a school was promised with an opening date of day 1 of the 2017 school year. When the 2017 school year came around, construction hadn't commenced on that school. I've been meeting with the residents again this Sunday. The nearest school's 4 kilometres away. This is the middle suburbs of Sydney. The nearest school is 4 kilometres away at Newington, the old athletes' village, bursting at the seams with over 1,000 students this year, not a blade of grass for the kids to play on. We just have to do better than this. And at the same time, we have to up our investment in language education. A third of Western Sydney's residents were born overseas. This weekend I'll be with Filipino dancers in St Mary's tonight. I'll be at a big Christian Lebanese function in Fairfield tomorrow night. I'll be with the Islamic community in Auburn on Sunday morning. This is just an average weekend for me as a political leader in Western Sydney, in this diverse, multicultural region. And in a world that more than ever recognises language proficiency and cultural diversity, Western Sydney has really serious natural advantages with its young and multicultural population. But fewer than 4 in 10 of our schools have a language program. For every child in New South Wales learning Japanese, there's 10 in Queensland. 10 to 1. And in a state with a half a million strong Chinese community, there's only half as many school students here learning Mandarin as there are in Victoria. So government led by me will commit to every primary school student studying a second language. Smart societies invest in language education. Everyone understands our future economic prosperity lies in doing business with Asia. I want an army of Asian language teachers, teachers of Mandarin, Cantonese, Hindi, Korean, Indonesian, in the schools of Western Sydney. A multilingual New South Wales will equip young people to work anywhere, do business anywhere. It'll help business at every level, allow us to communicate with our biggest and our growing export markets. So friends, a focus on education for the future of the people of Western Sydney. There's a whole lot more I'd want to talk about: rescuing TAFE, growing the university sector. I'm delighted the University of Western Sydney is establishing a new campus at Sydney Olympic Park, that the University of Wollongong's in Liverpool, that the University of Sydney's in Westmead. These are just great advances, great initiatives. A focus on preschool, ensuring every 4-year-old gets that international benchmark of 15 hours a week preschool. Because if you start at age 5, day 1 at school, behind on the key benchmarks, you never ever catch up. All the research tells us that. So you put all that together: preschool, more schools, better schools, the growth of great universities through Western Sydney, with this university as the flagship for the region. You get a smart, skilled, educated population in Western Sydney. That's the future I believe in for the people of this region. I think a majority of the people in this room, you and I believe in effort and reward for effort, in talent, enthusiasm, in community and teamwork. All of those things position Western Sydney for an exciting future. You take all the talent that's there. You take that youthful, multicultural population of Western Sydney, mix in good government and success for the millions of people who call this region home is assured. Thanks so much for having me.